finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. Now for our time for all ages.
Good morning. Oh, great. It's hot. Good morning. Is that good? That's the nice thing about putting on my necklace and I can like move it. All right. Good. Volume. Anyway, I'm Katie Gelfand. I'm here to do the Time for All Ages. I neglected to put the carpet circles out, but if anyone would like to join me on the rug, there are also these nice little sitting areas. You can see the pictures better. Young at heart. We got one special carpet circle, and then also here. Since you're here, yeah, great. Welcome, young at hearts. Today I have a very special book, and it's about these amazing water warriors. Autumn Peltier, who is the race, I think, of Grandma Josephine, who walked around Lake Superior. How many times does it say? A total of 13 times as a water action. And then her grandniece, Autumn Peltier, became an activist herself and spoke to the Prime Minister of Canada at the age of 12, telling her how disappointed she was and how heartbroken she was at his lack of care and action. So this is a story that is a true story, but written in a magical and beautiful way and told from the perspective of water. And it's called Autumn Peltier, Water Warrior, by Carol Lindstorm and illustrated by Bridget George. I have feelings. I remember. For a very long time, all of life on earth cared for me, looking 7 generations into the future, making sure I was pure and clean for their children's children. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 generations. I remember how the water, sing for the water, dance for the water, speak for the water, sing for the water, dance for the water. Over time, more people came, diminishing their voices, drowning out their message. Those people didn't care for me, didn't cherish me, didn't love me. As my voice grew quieter, the women who cared for me, their voices got louder. And then I met Grandma Josephine. I remember her touch, the ripple. She walked miles and miles around the Great Lakes, carrying my spirit in her copper pail, so the people would see her and see me. The 7th generation is creating a sea of change. It was soft, I was a soft voice at first, like a ripple, but with patience, it grew louder and louder. When Grandma Josephine journeyed into the spirit world, Autumn, her great niece, began to use her voice to speak for me. Autumn is the 7th generation. She honors me through ceremony, offering up asema and prayers for my health and well-being. I know Autumn, and Autumn knows me. Speak for the water, sing for the water, dance for the water. Speak for the water, sing for the water, dance for the water. When she saw signs that read, "Stop, water not safe, to drink, to wash, to touch," she summoned her courage and confronted people who made decisions, telling them that she was unhappy with their choices, telling them that I am precious, telling them that without me there would be no life, there would be nothing. Her ancestors knew that as the 7th generation, Autumn would one day raise her voice. Though she began in her great aunt's footsteps, Autumn is blazing her own path for me. For the next 7 generations, for healthy animals and plants, for you and me. Speak for the water, sing for the water, dance for the water. Josephine guiding her, the women who came before her, Autumn's visited different indigenous communities, met leaders from all over the world, speaking out loud and strong for me. Like a ripple in a vast sea, people are beginning to wake up and listen. But I need all of you now to grow a ripple into a tidal wave. Be like Autumn and Grandma Josephine. Leave good footprints for me. Speak for the water, sing for the water, dance for the water. Speak for the water, sing for the water, dance for the water. What will you do for me? Thank you, everyone, and Grandma Josephine and Autumn Peltier.
Now time for a special part of our service we do at the first of every month, that is the first Sunday, and that's the joys and concerns. Amy and I will work together to do this, but basically this is a laity-led portion of our service. If you would, and you're willing, come up and give one joy or concern that you have in your life and explain it. Respectfully, please keep your comments to 2 minutes or fewer. And what we would do is we'd come up in the middle, and then way we can have a line. And what you would do is lift up a stone and then drop it in the water for each joy or concern, and then voice that joy or concern out loud. So, with that being said, I think we can get it set up, and I hope you'll express and share what's in your mind and your heart.
I'm not shy. So I have a joy to share with you. I just spent some time in informal board meetings in Easton, Maryland with the only other board I'm on besides this one, which is for Restore the Earth Foundation. Thank you, Dwayne. I'm short. I'm just really excited and happy because we just quietly go around doing massive, large-scale reforestations and plantings in wetlands in the tens of thousands of acres, and we just moved into the river parishes, so I'm really excited about that.
This is a little awkward. I have one sorrow to share and one deep concern. My sorrow is in the passing of my Cajun cousin. My sorrow is in the unexpected death of my Cajun cousin Judith Falk a week ago. So this is in memory of her, and to lift up my sister-in-law and my nephews in their time of deep loss. And then my mother in my family of care, she's a German lady in her 90s in Pensacola, and also a longtime Unitarian Universalist, was just diagnosed with breast cancer. So I ask for your thoughts and prayers to send out to her so she can recover. Thank you. Her name is Hannah Laura Muschel.
That's all right. That would be better. Thank you so much. So it's a joy and a sorrow at the same time. Some of you might have read of my friend Linda Bermuda occupy her front tree in her yard uptown on the 2100 block of Adams when the city wanted to cut it down for a road project. And by the way, the city contractor had already damaged the roots of the tree. And it was a tree that her father had planted in front of her house, and the tree that the city, by the way, distributed to them to plant. So the concerns raised about the type of tree and it's under power lines and all that. Well, at the time, that's was encouraged to have a tree canopy. The good news is that because the neighbors and her stance, the city has backed off from cutting the tree at this time. It's not to say that they won't, but that they are going to have an independent arborist to affect it. And if people want to know more, it's Linda's Spirit Tree. You can Google it and you will find all about the story. It's really remarkable. And I've known Linda since she was a child, and I was just very proud of her taking a stance that she has.
I have a joy and a sorrow. My joy is that I believe our country is heading in the right direction, but I think the backlash to that will be pretty dramatic, and I just encourage everybody to be together in solidarity when that happens. My sorrow is I'm having some challenges at work, which I think I can overcome through stoicism, resolve, and resiliency.
I too have a concern about the election on Tuesday. I hope that everyone accepts the results and we don't go into violence.
I have a joy. Recently, my brother moved to a new place that he hasn't been to before, was really nervous about it, but I've been hearing that he's been doing really well and he likes where he's at, and so I'm really happy with that.
I have a joy to share. I came in from Germany to be here for my son's wedding to his fiancée Claire next weekend, and I just hope they have a really wonderful life together.
My deep ongoing concern and sorrow is that our country continues to participate in the genocide of people in Gaza and the West Bank, and what I consider to be the lesser of the two evils. If Kamala wins, her stance is no different from Biden, so that gives me great sorrow.
Hello. I have a joy and sorrow. The sorrow is that my nephew tried to commit suicide this week. His name is Brennan. Keep him in your prayers. And my joy is this choir right here. They're bringing me a lot of joy today.
Let's take a moment of silence, a minute of silence, to think of these joys, think of these concerns. May it be so. Please join me in singing hymn number 391, Voice Still and Small. Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In dark and rain, sorrow and pain, still you remain, singing, calming my fears, quenching my tears. Through all the years, singing.
Our responsive reading is number 568 in the gray hymnal. Connections are made slowly. I'll read the regular print and you read the italicized print, please. Connections are made slowly. Sometimes they grow underground. More than half a tree is spread out in the soil under your feet. Fight persistently as the creeper that brings down the tree. Gnaw into the dark and use the sun to make sugar. Make love that is loving. Live as if you like yourself, and it may happen.
Reach out, keep reaching out, keep bringing in.
This is how we are going to live for a long time. Not always. Thank you. And now I'm going to introduce you to someone who I admire greatly. I'm actually kind of fangirling here, but I met Jo and her sister Joy several years ago by stalking them. I have always had instilled in me a passion for fairness and justice, and have been involved in some social justice issues where I've never gone to jail, where you have to take risks, and I did lose a job, but that's okay because good triumphed over evil in that case, and the right thing was eventually done. And I am a fellow of the Institute for Environmental Communications at Loyola University. And every year I get to nominate 2 individuals who I think would add to and benefit from the program. And I don't really remember exactly how I how the Descendants Project first caught my attention, but it was smaller and more grassroots at the time. And I have family, not blood relatives, but friends and ex-husband's relatives who live in Edgard, and I had been through that beautiful area many, many times, and I read what Jo and her sister Joy had been trying to accomplish, and it really just made me feel like I needed to do something to help them, and something more than monetary. So I did ask their permission, but I nominated them for the Institute for Environmental Communications, and they said yes. And they've become an integral part of that, teaching some of the classes. And so they're going to tell you all the rest of their story. And so it gives me great joy to introduce Jo Banner.
Should I stand here? Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to your service this morning. I feel very tall up here. And it's a pleasure for me to be here, and thank you, Amy, for being brave and reaching out to us and involving us in your world. It's been a pleasure to work with you, too. I am one of the founders and directors of a nonprofit organization called the Descendants Project. We're located in St. John the Baptist Parish in the community of Wallace. My family has been there for over 300 years. I'm 10th generation Wallisonian. It's a very small village, and then the village is a hamlet, from what I'm told. And the little hamlet was created by my great-great-grandfather, my great-uncle, who purchased land. So we've been able to live quite close in this little village, in this little community that I hold very dear. So as we've lived through these generations in this land and being able to be a part of this community, we also acknowledge that we are descended from enslaved Africans who worked the nearby plantations. The river parishes, as it's known, the St. John the Baptist Parish is in the middle of the river parishes of St. James and St. Charles, and St. John is in the middle of it. The river parishes is known for the plantations mostly, especially by the tourism departments of Louisiana and even up the country. So our area is marketed as plantation country, New Orleans plantation country. We have a lot of tourists who come in to see and visit the plantations. What's often left of that story, out of that story, are the stories, or the true story of the enslaved Africans, enslaved people who worked those plantations. Me and my sister Joy, we actually have a background in tourism. Over about 25 years, we've worked in the industry. So seeing that vantage point, seeing the tourism industry and the plantations that have been lauded and the families who own those plantations being appreciated, we saw that our ancestors, our enslaved ancestors, because as descendants, we actually descend from all of the people along the river. But particularly our enslaved ancestors, we saw that story and that history was being left out of the narrative. So what we wanted to do when we started the Descendants Project was to create an organization that focused on the history of the enslaved, the culture, what our people brought to the area. So we really started our organization to be almost a tourist commission, as I like to say, run by black people, what that would look like, what the story would sound like from a black gaze. As we started our organization, from the very first few days, what we realized that we were telling the story of our ancestors, but we could not ignore what was happening to the descendant community, how we were vulnerable to industry. When we started an organization, one of our hopes was to actually get descendants to be able to work in the tourism, and I don't even like to use the term tourism anymore, the heritage and culture industry, because we saw this as a viable opportunity for us to contribute to the economy, but it also steer us away from jobs that were heavy industry, jobs that caused pollution, jobs that were a detriment to our health. So as we were steering them away from that and pointing them to this industry, we also just realized that the environmental injustice really had to be a center of our organization. Could just be a pathway for jobs. There was much deeper story that needed to be told. And we were really just so vulnerable to more industry moving into the area. I don't know if you've heard of our story, but one of the big projects we were fighting was a grain export terminal. The owner was from, or investor, I should say, was from Denver, Colorado, but the company was called Greenfield, Louisiana, had no bases in Louisiana other than to bring the infrastructure that would cause the pollution. So in my very little small village next to our little hamlet in Wallace, this massive grain export terminal, which would bring over 120 tons of particulate matter as part of the pollution, would move into our community. We would have to now deal with additional toxins in the air, mold, dust, rodent droppings, and insect parts coming from this infrastructure. Not to mention that grain export terminals are more combustible than gunpowder factories. And this was in our backyards. Actually, I say backyard, but it was in our front yard, backyard, it's everywhere. We would live inside of this facility. So we fought back. We fought against this company. We are known as Cancer Alley, if you've heard the term before. We are already dealing with so much pollution and so much detriment to our health. I really appreciated hearing the story about the water and hearing just your beautiful prayers this morning, because it reminded me of how often this is just violated. I come from St. John the Baptist Parish. St. John the Baptist is known for what? For water. Our community is, we're on a land of the indigenous, the Chitimacha. They're the people of the many waters. Yet what we do to our water and our air and our earth is just really, it's unconscionable. It continues to happen. It's a shame that when you live in a community like Cancer Alley, we have to fight against adding additional pollution to our community. We are considered an environmental justice community, which means that our pollution is acknowledged by the federal government, yet we still see permits coming through, although we have the title of environmental justice community. We're not really sure what that means, honestly, because it's supposed to be something that helps our community, or at least stops additional projects from coming in, yet we are constantly battling government to stop additional projects. We're known as Cancer Alley because we have one of the highest rates of cancer in the country. We're in the 97th percentile, some communities in St. John the Baptist Parish. My street, the neighboring street along where I live at, there's 2 homes there, and within those 2 homes, there are 5 people who have battled or are battling cancer. That's one street. I can go further along the parish and point at more streets where there's more people getting sick. My cousin, male, he came to me and he warned me and my sister. He said, make sure you're getting your mammograms, because he had breast cancer and he had to get a double mastectomy. Then he told us that one of his neighbors, his friends who lives in the same community, also was a man suffering with breast cancer and would probably have to get a mastectomy. So it's a very real story. It's very real what's happening in the river parishes. And what it stems from is that our community has been continually sacrificed. Descendant communities, as they live along these plantations, they're living on the border of these plants. There is a plantation to plant through line. The plantations are the petrochemical companies and heavy industry. Oftentimes they are built in the footprint of plantations. So when you're seeing these communities being sacrificed, know that the sacrifice has been happening for generations. It is the product of enslavement. It's a continuation of people whose lives aren't valued as much, or for someone who is getting money that's not even from the community. We often hear that it's the jobs, people need jobs. That's false. It's a false analogy that they have about people needing jobs at the cost of other people's lives. That's what they leave out. That these jobs that they purportedly bring, which guess what, oftentimes do not even come to our community members, but these jobs are often subsidized. So every person who's paying taxes in Louisiana is paying for those jobs, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars per job. But the workers aren't getting hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're lucky if they're cracking $50,000. But continually we hear this narrative about we need it because of the jobs. And so we have to fight and just make sure that we know that our community knows it's not the truth. And by the way, there's also additional jobs that are available through our culture and heritage market that we have. And that's, again, what we're trying to introduce, a way that descendants can support themselves by finding and getting in touch with their history, and also finding a way to communicate that history to others who also want to learn more about the history of the enslaved Africans or the Africans. I just want to read one verse that I read this morning from the Bible, and it's one that actually, I'm Catholic, and Catholics aren't known for reading the Bible a lot, so I need some help. And there's a little calendar on my desk, and the book is called Jesus is Calling, and it's every day you flip it, and there's a reflection, and there's a Bible verse that you can go and read. So one of the Bible verses that I read was, "As for you, you meant evil against me, but God turned it into good in order to bring about this present result, to save the lives of many people." What I love about that verse is that oftentimes we think that we have to go through something bad, or we have to be really strong, or something happens and we have to prove how strong we are before God intervenes. And what I appreciate about this quote is that it's showing that when harm is against us, God can turn it into something good. And we are actually passive in this whole equation. It doesn't say anything about what you have to do. It's just when someone does something bad, it can be turned into good without us having to sacrifice anything. And I think when we speak of resistance, because that's resistance change, when I think of resistance, the resistance is believing that we don't have to be sacrificed for good things to happen to us, that we have to pay a price in order to have good. And that is something that the polluters want us to believe, that you have to sacrifice something. We were able to lean into our history and resist against the powers that have put us in this position, the powers that want us to fight back the way that they fight back. So what we have to do for what we have done, and we've resisted in fighting back the way that they fight back. One way that Joy and I, we did fight back, I don't even know if it's to say it's a fight. What we are trying to do is preserve what our ancestors wanted for us. And we wanted to preserve the sacred spaces that they are buried. Wherever there is a plantation, there is a burial ground for the enslaved. So all of that land, petrochemical built on top of it or not, is sacred land. So we want to protect our ancestors, their places of rest, and also protect the dreams of our ancestors, which we believe, or which we know, is for us to have healthy and happy lives. We are protecting our ancestors, their burial sites in the communities that they built, such as Wallace, by enlisting federal laws, such as a National Historic Landmark status, in order to protect us from additional industry build-out. And I'm glad to say that just last week, we, the National Historic Landmark Commission, determined that our area qualifies as eligible to be a National Historic Landmark. So that's 11 miles out of Cancer Alley that has now this eligibility, which will make it much easier for us to protect the burial sites of our ancestors and the descendant communities such as us. And that's a big victory. And it's something we did not follow the way the polluters fight. We went around them. And our fight was about saving and preserving and caring. And ours is a love story. What theirs is about trying to take us down and trying to harm us. So we resisted following that path, and I'm happy to say that it will make it much harder for industry to build up around us, to build on a community that has been so inundated by pollution. Yay, yay. I see some shaking. And just to, that project, after we had this, or we're in the process of getting this National Historic Landmark, the grain export terminal, Greenfield, Louisiana, pulled out of the process because they realized that this would be much harder for them to get their facility built in our community, probably anywhere in the community. So our community and our fight, we were able to stop a billionaire. That project alone was $800 million. It just shows you when you resist with hope, with love and faith, what can happen, that you can take down these people who want to continue to harm us. And by that harm being done to us, which is even the attempt to locate into our community, it's been a very hard fight for me and Joy. We have much bigger bags under our eyes, although my concealer budget has gone up really a lot in the last few years trying to hide some of these bags. But the harm that was done, I'm not saying anything is worth harm, but we were able to build upon that. We were able to we saw what was what was used from that harm to give us the status that we have now that we have the National Historic Landmark eligibility. We also purchased a plantation, or we're now stewarding a plantation, the Woodland Plantation in La Place, also known as the 1811 Kid Ory House. This site was the site of the 1811 German Coast Uprising, which was the uprising of the enslaved along the river in order to gain their liberty and to gain their freedom. So the culmination of this battle happened on that ground. The fight was about, once again, resistance. But it was about resisting the powers that held them enslaved. These people who fought in this revolution, they're treated as criminals. Well, really all they wanted to do was to return home, or at least make a home where they can be free. And these revolutionaries, I don't even like to call them revolutionaries, I call them freedom fighters. At the end of the day, what I want people to remember, and this was pointed out by one of my coworker, Kaylee, who pointed out that the people involved in this revolution, they liberated 500 people. 500 people along the river were freed in order to participate or to gain their freedom ultimately. And that part of the story is often left out, the amount of people that were freed, and one that I hadn't thought about. And that's what we are continuing today, to fight in those footsteps of our ancestors, the ones who were part of this revolution, the ones who fought even other revolutions in other ways that we didn't see, some of those quiet ways of resistance that we often did not see. So we are fighting as descendants of these people to ensure that we can get the healthy and the happy lives that our ancestors dreamed for us. So although that revolution, that battle was put down, it's basically 3 days after during the 1811 German Coast Uprising, it was seen, some may see it as a failure, but really the fact that we are here along the river and that we're still fighting, the fact that we're fighting billionaires, and the fact that we have won against billionaires, and we're not about to stop. Our movement is getting stronger, we're getting more and more protection. It shows that those people who fought, that their battle is being won even to this day. And it will never stop. But guess what? We will never stop winning. So Thank you for inviting me today, and if I can be of any help to you, please let me know. It's been a pleasure to celebrate the service with you. Thank you.
Thank you for that rousing sermon. We now have a treat. We'll take the offering. We also get the Flaming Chalice Choir singing The Trees of the Field.
I also would like to say that today our board has agreed to share the plate with the Descendants Project, so please be as generous as you are moved to be. And now we'll have our offering acknowledgement. Please join me. This gift from the abundance of my life blesses me, our ministries, and the world. And now we have some spotlight announcements. I'll go first. So Kathy and I, since I am her co-chair, on the 47th annual Funo Christmas tree sale, we just want to remind everybody it's only 4 weeks away. It's our largest fundraiser, and it's great seasonal fun. It's actually how I was first introduced to this church by Claudia's daughter, Camille, who is a friend of my daughter, who said, hey, let's go to the First Unitarian Universalist Church and buy our Christmas tree one year. And here I am. Look for the Christmas tree sales table in the fellowship hall during coffee hour, and I hope that Joe and her sister Joy, who is also with us, will join us for coffee hour if they're up to it. And there's also a link to sign up on our weekly digest for the Christmas tree sale.
And next we have Beverly, I believe.
Thank you for being here. We really appreciate you being here. I have 3 little announcements today. They're not about little things. One thing is to remind you that because of the grant that we received from UUA, GNU has several programs for all 3 of the churches. And remember, GNU is Greater New Orleans Unitarian Universalist. So it's the 3 churches, community, North Shore, and us. And I'm here to particularly talk to you about one of the programs, which is a sermon writing class, because we do always need people to stand here and share their message. The sermon writing class is going to be taught by Reverend Nathan Ryan, who we all know. And it's a 1-day class, not next Saturday, but the next, November the 17th. It'll be all day. You'll be with, some great people who are learning how to write sermons. And then we'll be kind of gathering for you to workshop sermons within ourselves. Now, CCUU has 4 or 5 people signed up for the class. North Shore has 6 people signed up for the class. First Church has me and Claudia. And we would like for you to join us. So if you've thought about giving a message, sharing your story, and how to, finesse that, then please join us. It doesn't cost a thing, and they'll feed us. It'll be at CCUU on the 17th. So please talk to me about that. The 16th, I keep saying the 17th. 17th will be here, but those sermons won't be finished yet. So, all right, the other thing I want to tell you about is on the 17th, and that is a congregational meeting. It's not on your calendar yet. It's a special congregational meeting, and it's so that we can sit together and share information and share what we see our future as. And so we'll be sending out more information about that. It'll mostly be budget stuff, but it'll also be stuff that's not about the budget, that's about our future. There won't be any votes. We're just going to be listening and talking at this congregational meeting 2 weeks from today after the service. And then my last thing I want to tell you is to read your digest, please. I'm not telling you, I'm asking you to please read your digest that comes in your email every Friday at 5 o'clock and has all of our activities and events in it, and it's how you keep up with what's going on in the church. Because in the next few months, we're going to be having lots of conversations, one-on-one conversations, eye-to-eye conversations, group conversations. Those things are going to be done in person. But the way that you know that they're going to be done is you read the digest and you say, oh, look, there's a meeting on Friday night or Sunday afternoon, and there's a social justice action next week and we want to take part. Or there's people going to see a film about whatever that is a social justice issue. So I'm going to stop talking now and encourage. And if you don't get, no, I didn't stop. I lied. If you don't get the digest at 5 o'clock on Friday in your email, come talk to me so we can make sure that we have your email correct and you should get it. Thank you.
And we have a stewardship announcement and update from Jody Manali and Brad.
Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Okay. Well, what an appropriate song for the choir to sing today, because our Thrive Tree is clapping. Yay! We have now reached a little bit over 50% of our goal toward $90,000. And have added several more hearts to our tree, so now we have 24 hearts on our tree that represents individuals or couples who have pledged. So we're up to $46,849. Thank you to everyone who has pledged so far, and we ask that those of you who have not, we're just past 50%, but we only have 2 weeks left to the drive. So your pledges support almost 50% of our budget to operate each year. And so we need the money to be able to continue to use this space, to continue to have inspiring worship services, to have a magnificent new music director and our lovely choir performing again. So if your canvasser reaches out to you or has tried to reach out to you, please respond and get with them so they can ask you what's going on with you and find out what your thoughts are about the church, how things are going, what you'd like to see in the future. Also, let's see. So 24 pledges are out of 67, so that's 36% of the congregation. So we need to up that. We need to up the pledge commitments here, particularly in this next 2 weeks. We've gotten a few more volunteer commitments, which is great. So let's step on it so we can thrive in 2025, and so our tree can have another big clap, okay? And now we invite Dylan Hutzler to come up and give a testimonial.
So I have a list of 4 reasons why I pledge, and excuse my wordiness. I am an English teacher, so I'm going to try to take it slowly. 4 reasons why I pledge. I pledge because the UU Church on a national level, and also this congregation in particular, has done a wonderful job of embracing pluralism, and more importantly, of making space for radical universalists like myself, who believe, to quote British theologian John Hick, that our God is a God who is being worshipped through different but overlapping mental images of him, not only in churches and chapels, but also in synagogues, as well as mosques and temples, and that he is the God of all mankind and not only of our own familiar tribe. Church membership is overwhelmingly on the decline across our nation, but I truly believe that having open arms and not closed minds, especially with regard to the acceptance of queer, multi-faith, agnostic, and atheist youth, is going to be important in terms of building a coalition to combat the problems of our day and age, namely climate change. Secondly, I pledge and dedicate myself to this congregation because in times of crisis and when my physical health was faltering, the church community has been there to support me when I could not give as much emotionally as others could give at that time. This is truly an example of the unconditional love of our congregation. Thirdly, I pledge to maintain the work of the wonderful music of our congregation, whether it be the uplifting communal hymns led by Wendy Moore O'Neill when our congregation was going through a particularly emotionally tough transition, or through the talents of our choir and new choir director. Music has proven to be, as Hildegard von Bingen has stated, the way to connect with the cosmos, because the soul is structured by musical harmonial criteria that mirror the laws of the cosmos. Lastly, I pledge to support the congregation and the church because the wisdom of our congregation has been incredibly supportive for me as I continue to mourn the loss of my greatest mentor, my father, who would have turned 80 this past January. It is for these reasons, the harmony of the music of God, our congregation's dedication to pluralism, being a church for all souls, and the unconditional love and wisdom that is present in this very unique and special group of souls, that I ask you to pledge a small percentage more with regards to next fiscal year than what you agreed to pledge for this current fiscal year. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody, Brad, and Dylan. I think Brad has an announcement too.
Thank you. The trembling tree. Thanks to my hand trimmer. Next week, of course, is going to be a challenging week, has been presented to us. I hope those who haven't voted, please do on Tuesday. We do have the Gillespie Center Memorial Community Breakfast does have a forum, an open discussion forum next Saturday here in the Fellowship Hall at 11 o'clock, where we just, whoever's assembled, we have a round table. I know when we did this 8 years ago, it was quite mournful. But hey, whatever happens on Tuesday, or whatever happens thereof, I hope you can join us. The other thing that I'll mention is Jafia has agreed to make a lunch at 12:30 following our session. And this will be a prelude to the ongoing discussions that we're having with CCUU on the ways forward, which is also next Saturday from 1:30 to 3. So if you want to know more, I know Claudia's here. I'm here as well. Please talk with us. Thanks so much.
If you'd please rise in body and spirit, and we'll do the chalice extinguishing, which is in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. If you'd please remain standing, and we'll sing the closing hymn, number 1057, in your teal hymnal, Go Lift It Up, and I gather we sing this 3 times. 1057. In closing, if there's anything you want to say, you can say it. Any benediction, you're welcome to.
No pressure. Once again, thank you all for having me and for supporting our effort. I'm truly inspired by your attention to Earth and to climate. We have a big battle ahead of us. Go out there and vote and support the groups all around the world, but particularly in the river parishes who are fighting to make sure we have a clean earth and a clean water and clean spirit. So thank you.
Please turn and greet your neighbor. Join us for coffee hour.